let's talk about the economic survey, because that is clearly the big story tonight. The 8% growth dream is elusive, at least in the near future. Finally, a realistic projection of GDP growth coming in from the government. Throwing his weight behind the RBI Governor, the Chief Economic Advisor has also cautioned against any fiscal slippage while acknowledging fiscal headwinds in FY17. The economic survey has also laid out a roadmap to address the stressed banking system while also coping with broken balance sheets of the private sector. Here are the key highlights of the economic survey.
With an enterprise such as this, it's highly likely that we've actually tread on many toes. But hopefully this has been done without any bad intent, malintent. And hopefully also we've been pretty non-discriminatory in making enemies. As they say, it's better to make many enemies than a few enemies. But I will say that in some ways, if we haven't tread on toes, I think we've actually not done a good job.
With that caveat out of the way, the Chief Economic Advisor, Arvind Subramanian, presented his prescription for the economy in his second economic survey. FY17 GDP growth is seen at 7 to 7.5% and 7.6% in FY16. But downside risks to medium-term growth due to global economic conditions remain. The CA has also warned that FY17 is expected to be challenging from a fiscal point of view, but has batted for keeping the FY17 fiscal deficit at the budgeted 3.5% of GDP to ensure credibility.
The objectives are clear for everyone. Everyone in government shares this objective. Fiscal policy must balance maintaining stability by debt and deficits declining, but at the same time purchasing insurance against a growth slowdown.
The other positive takeaway was his prescription for a higher recap outlay to the tune of 30,000 crore rupees for PSBs. He also articulated a multi-pronged strategy to address what he sees as the twin balance sheet challenge: stressed PSBs and stressed corporate houses.
Conceptually, what needs to happen to address this problem is what we call the 4 R's. Recognition, which is what the RBI is trying to do. We must come clean on these bad assets. 2, recapitalization, that is, once you identify the problem, you've got to put money into it, and the Indradhanush scheme started on that, and the government is committed to recapitalizing the banks. 3, it's a point that's less well understood: resolution. And finally, of course, the 4th R, we need reform, because we need to ensure that whatever we do on the 3 Rs has to be backed up with reform to ensure that this does not happen again.
Subramanian has also advised more subsidy control, enhancing the tax base and doing away with exemptions.
In India, the people who benefit from tax exemptions are not the middle class, are not the rich, they are the mega rich, because the 10% tax bracket, the lowest tax bracket, starts at the top 5.8 percentile of income distribution. The 30% tax bracket, only 0.5% of all Indians, earning Indians are in that tax bracket. So when we think about tax exemptions and tax benefits in India, please keep this in mind that, we're not talking middle class, but we're talking very, very, very rich.
As CNBC TV 18 has been reporting, the CEA believes the budget will focus on the agri sector to a great extent. He's also pushed for more reforms for fertilizer subsidies.
More reforms can be done. I think the fertilizer subsidy is pretty big, 75,000 crores excluding arrears. It has multiple regulations. Of the total urea subsidy of about 50,000 crores, only 35% goes to the small farmer, and in between there are 3 sources of diversion, to inefficient firms outside the country, industrial users, large farmer.
The survey lays to bear both external and domestic challenges, with the windfall gains of oil prices expected to temper in FY17. The Finance Minister and his team have their work cut out for them. In New Delhi with Sapna Das, this is Shireen Bhan.
That was Arvind Subramanian and his economic survey, the details of that. Now to his